Now, as you can imagine, imperialism will upset some people, right? And so if you upset people, there's going to be a war. And so imperialism does lead to a war. The big war we have here is the Spanish-American War. Now, this first video is going to cover the causes of the Spanish-American War up to the Declaration, all right? So, first off, the U.S. had interest in Cuba. What did they want? You can see it there, sugar plantations. Now, we did try to purchase this in 1854. Spain said, well, we're going to stay here. And so we have sugar plantations much like we had in Hawaii. Cuba is a colony of Spain, okay? Now, there was a poet living in New York. His name was Jose Marti. Jose Marti was a leader of the Cuban independence movement. He moved to New York to encourage Cubanos to fight for freedom and all this. He started the Cuban Revolutionary Party. He revolted against Spain with the Cubans, but he also died in battle. And while he's here, he began to tell these stories of all these horrible things that were happening down in Cuba, that the Spanish were killing people, etc. Now, the Cuban independence movement, they're starting to rise up against the Spanish. So what does Spain do? We send a general. Spain will send a general. His name is General Valeriano Weyler to quell or to put down this revolution. Now, Weyler had a nickname, and that nickname was El Carnicero, the butcher. So you've already got these horrible stories being told, and now you're sending somebody who's known as the butcher down there. You can imagine the stories these people are going to invent and write, etc. Now, we couple that with yellow journalism, which we talked about with William Randolph Hearst and Joseph Pulitzer. And an example, okay, yellow journalism is sensational reports to attract readers. Often they are exaggerated. For example, blood, blood, blood in Cuba. Prisoners of war being fed to sharks and dogs. These are stories that make people go, oh, really? No. And so, why do we want to read these stories about blood, blood, blood? Because we're sick and twisted individuals. And we want to know all the gory details. Okay? That's why everybody loves to go into a horror movie, because you want to see all the bad stuff, right? No imagination, if you will. So, Frederick Remington was sent down by William Randolph Hearst to take pictures. Okay? These are some pictures he came back with. William Randolph Hearst actually received a telegram from Frederick Remington that said, there's nothing bad here. I mean, nothing really like that. I mean, there's nothing to report. And it's kind of debated if William Randolph Hearst actually sent a telegram that said, you furnish the pictures, I'll furnish a war. In other words, you send me something that I can invent some type of horrible headline through yellow journalism and get people to want to go to war. Okay? Now, if you've ever seen the movie The Wedding Singer, I don't know, alright? Billy Idol was the stuff, alright? I'm an 80s kid, and Billy Idol is the reason I started spiking my hair and all this stuff. I wanted to be Billy Idol, okay? In the movie, Billy Idol's on a plane, and someone actually says, hey, Billy, you better sit down, you're going to get hurt. And this guy jumps out of nowhere and goes, don't you talk to Billy Idol that way. Now, why on earth am I bringing up Billy Idol in the Spanish-American War? Have I lost my mind? Possibly, but here it comes. There was actually a diplomat, a Spanish diplomat to the United States named Enrique de Lome, all right? Enrique de Lome actually wrote a letter, and in it he said that President McKinley was a spineless leader of democracy catering to these things. In other words, he talked bad about the president. So you can envision that guy jumping up and going, nobody talks about the president that way. It really upset a lot of people, and the call for war is getting bigger. We have the horrible things in Cuba. We're seeing the horrible things in yellow journalism. Now you criticize our president. But still, nothing's going to be done at this point. Now, all these calls for war can be summed up in what is called jingoism. Jingoism is the extreme belief that your country is always best, shown through enthusiastic support for a war against another country. Okay? In other words, we're big. We want to prove this. We have these gunboats. We have this military now. We want to go and prove. And you've insulted our president. You've called our bluff on these things. And so, how are we going to make this work? Now, what McKinley decides to do is send the USS Maine, which was one of our premier ships, and put it in the Havana harbor. Okay? Now, the Maine actually exploded. Don't have it there. Okay. So the Maine actually explodes. Now, yellow journalism had a field day with this. There was a picture of a mine underneath it, saying, quotes, they know it's this suspect attack, and reports of men being blown in the air amid all these different things. Yellow journalism had a field day with this. And so, remember the Maine became a rallying cry, and this was kind of the last straw. We were convinced the Spanish did this. Now, in class, we're actually going to go and investigate, did the Maine actually blow up because of a Spanish war, or did something else happen? Were we just itching to go to war? It wouldn't be the first time that happens. Now, the big question was, a lot of people said, we're not going to get in trouble like we did with Hawaii. Hawaii still looks bad. So, in our declaration of war, we included something called the Teller Amendment. The Teller Amendment said we would not annex Cuba. We would simply go liberate, kick the Spanish out, and let them do whatever, okay? And so that's the first part about the Spanish-American War.